The nature of video game development is such that games.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ever GVMERS video commentary, in which we commentate on the videos of yesteryear and provide you with additional insights and information on the making of our opuses. My name is Alexander Kazina. I was the writer on this video, and I am joined today by Eilert. How are you doing, Eilert?
Hey, I'm Eilert. I'm the guy who makes all the videos. I edit them, and I also occasionally provide ideas.
Yeah, and this video is especially important to me because it was the first video that I had ever written for the GVMERS channel. And in fact, I had actually written this video while I was still in university. The way that this came about is previously I'd been writing for a video game related blog called Pardon the Gamer. And it's funny, I went back and I looked at everything that I'd written for Pardon the Gamer, and it's all like dumb kind of joke articles like, oh, the things about Tokyo Game Show people don't tell you about. I'll look into Mario Kart, Tokyo's real-life Mario Kart circuit. These were articles I wrote because I was briefly living in Tokyo for a while. The Atari of Blade Runner 2049, which is like, what if Atari was still around by the year 2049, like in the movie? 5 video game characters I could write a better article, this article. And my favorite and first article, which was, how does pineapple belong on games? Do you think it belongs on games, by the way?
Sorry, what was that? The last one?
Does pineapple belong on games?
Does pineapple belong? I think pineapple belongs on nothing, period.
Okay, well, if you do believe it belongs on games, you can head over to pardonthegamer.com and basically read about whether or not it does. But what got me noticed by you is I wrote my one serious article called How Heavily Will Metroid Prime 4 Borrow from This Generation's First-Person Shooters? And you happened to stumble across that article, and you were like, yeah, I want to hire this guy to have him write about Metal Gear Solid.
Well, yeah, I remember this very well, actually. It was not so much the things you wrote about Metroid Prime, because I'm not super knowledgeable about that franchise.
Sure.
But it's the way you wrote about that franchise that really caught my attention. I think even in that article, your level of research really became apparent to me, and that you really cared about providing information a lot, and you did that in a very coherent and clear manner. So yeah, that's the reason. And then we had like a little back and forth about what kind of genre or like what kind of franchises you would be interested in talking about, and I think Metal Gear Solid was like on top of the list.
Yeah, so like, unlike a lot of people, I had not grown up playing the Metal Gear Solid games. I'd only started playing them like a few years prior, and it speaks to the quality of the games that even the original PlayStation 1 game, which you can see on the screen right now, I really genuinely enjoyed, and I can't say that about many other games from that generation. So I was like, you know what, I want to kind of take a stab at this series. And you were like, hey, how about you write about like abandoned Metal Gear Solid games and concepts? And so that's kind of what led to this video.
Yeah, for sure. I think that even back then, I always wanted to approach Metal Gear, even though I'm not like super familiar with the franchise. I think it's an interesting series nonetheless, and I always wanted to do a video about Metal Gear. So when you suggested it to me, I thought that was a perfect idea.
Yeah, and overall, I rewatched this video the other night in preparation for us doing this commentary, and I gotta say, I'm still pretty impressed with the quality of my work. I will say there is also a lot of stuff that I would rather improve. Namely, there is just a lot of like really long kind of run-on sentences without any breaks that I would have definitely cut up a lot more. There's also, I really try to use a lot of like officious and serious language at certain points, and it just kind of, I feel from my perspective, comes across as being a little pretentious or a little bit unnecessary. I definitely could have used plainer language at certain points.
Sure, yeah, I think that one of our channel's greatest qualities is the fact that because we use English, and because we're like because we can approach a large audience in such a way, I think that it's always important to like keep the language very clear. And I think it's not too egregious in this video, but you've definitely like improved that over the years.
Yeah. So we just kind of flew by the Tiger Gamecom section. To be honest, I don't really have a lot of things to say about that game. I mean, would it have been good? Would it have not been good? Probably not. So I don't really have any particular insights. Oh, so here you can see Hideo Kojima working with Legos. I think that if you want to make yourself look like a really kind of experienced and genius game designer, but you don't really know how to make games, like use Legos. You know, put together a video of yourself playing around with Legos. Yeah, for sure. So this section is, though, in the video is kind of interesting because, you know, it's talking about all the various things that Kojima censored during the making of Metal Gear Solid 2. And it's like super interesting seeing how he accidentally kind of broached a lot of like real life subjects and events without totally intending to. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff at the end of the game involving, you know, downtown Manhattan that ended up having to be kind of censored and cut around. But also like a lot of this stuff in the Middle East, as mentioned a few seconds ago in the video.
Yeah, is there like actually a set of levels within like the older Metal Gear Solid games where Snake travels to the Middle East or no?
I mean, it's debatable. Like the older Metal Gear Solid games take place in like Outer Haven. Oh, by the way, just want to say, because it's on screen right now, I really wish that they had called this game Metal Gear Solid 3. And I understand the reason why not, because, well, you can see right now why on screen, but that would have been such an amazing Hideo Kojima title. But to get back to your earlier question, I mean, some of the older Metal Gear Solid games take place in countries of sort of ambiguous origin and location, so the answer is possibly.
Oh, okay, I understand. Cool.
Yeah. By the way, I want to say I really appreciate throughout this video the way that you insert concept art like you're doing here of like these cut characters.
Yeah, thank you. Like this video, I had to get really creative with because usually when we discuss canceled games, there exists like a lot of gameplay footage.
Yeah.
With the Metal Gear Solid franchise, everything was so behind closed doors and never released to the public that I had to use whatever I could in like a very very creative manner. And I think it was to the benefit of the video in the end, but it was also like not at all beneficial to the time of production of the video because it took very long.
Right. But I will say it is really impressive, and it's especially impressive when you were doing it with the Gamecom version.
Thank you.
A little bit of insight here. Here at this point in the video, they're talking about the kind of Mantis mask. I went and I looked back at the kind of original Metal Gear Solid 2 design document, and there's this sort of one quote that I feel like explains it a little bit better than I did in the documentary, which is, as the game has a complex story full of betrayal and such, one of the objectives of this mode is to make the story easier to understand for players who will not understand it all in just one playthrough. This mode being basically being able to put on this Mantis mask and be able to kind of read the kind of like mind read what it is that people are currently thinking. So, for example, early on in Metal Gear Solid 2, there's a section in which you encounter Solid Snake, but he's disguised as this seal called Iroquois Pliskin. And basically what would have happened is if you had had the Mantis mask on while that scene was happening, you would have heard Snake in real life say, "I'm a seal," but you would have heard him think, "I'm Solid Snake." And so that would have helped ease along, you know, Metal Gear Solid 2's pretty complicated narrative.
I see. That's pretty cool. That's cool.
Yeah. So yeah. Oh man, that microwave scene, it gives me chills watching it.
Yeah.
So,
like the camera angle at the lower part is very like typical Hideo Kojima, I think.
Yeah, very dramatic, suggestive, dramatic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So here they're talking about like how originally Hideo Kojima had plans to have like a big shark fight, and he wanted to have like this big showdown in Lower Manhattan in which Snake and company fought off a bunch of enemies basically while a massive crowd of people looked over. I mean, you know, with some of these things that Kojima cut out of the game, it's like, well, you were trying to kind of aim for something that turned out to be a little bit too close to real life, so you had to, you know, censor yourself a little bit. With this stuff, though, it's pretty clear that, like, Kojima didn't really kind of, or for that matter, most of the rest of Team Kojima or the rest of Konami didn't really understand how powerful the PlayStation 2 was going to be at that point in time. So they were just kind of like, let's have like 100, you know, civilians on site, and then only afterwards they realized like, oh, you know, that doesn't really work. Oh, by the way, to your question earlier on, the Middle East. Well, here's the Middle East in Metal Gear Solid, as depicted at the beginning of Metal Gear Solid 4.
Is it the Middle East though? Is it not like Central
Yeah.
Asia?
No, it's the Middle East. I don't recall from my time playing the game if they specifically stated what country it was. I think they literally would have just said the Middle East because they didn't want to make it,
I see.
overtly political.
Okay, I'll say that, like, even though I've never played any of the Metal Gear Solid games, I think Metal Gear Solid 4, even though it's like very contentious amongst fans, it was always the one that was most interesting to me because of like the Middle Eastern themes and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
that's just my 2 cents about the franchise.
So here they're talking a little bit about how they plan to basically at one point potentially make a game centered around the boss, which is Solid Snake's female mentor, who appears for a large part of Metal Gear Solid 3. I feel like in a way it's almost for the best that Kojima maybe didn't do this game. I think that it had the potential to be really interesting, but I feel like Kojima's sort of main expertise remains in his ability to kind of write and depict Solid Snake. And this might kind of like upset people, especially diehard fans listening to this, but I almost feel like if the Metal Gear Solid series is ever revived, I think most of the people would agree it's probably would not be good if other people were to tackle Solid Snake, because I think that that's kind of perceived as being Hideo Kojima's baby, whereas somebody like the boss or somebody like Raiden, as we're seeing with this video, those can, I feel, more easily be tackled by other kind of creators, and I think that those will be more kind of games centered around them will be more kind of easily accepted.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm a little bit rambling there, but basically all that to say, I think that if we ever do get another Metal Gear Solid post Hideo Kojima's departure and it's not made by Hideo Kojima, I feel like the boss could be an interesting candidate to have that game be centered around.
Yeah, I can agree. Or like create a new character within a universe entirely. I think that would work as well.
That's true. Yeah. Although I feel like that would be... I can see sort of the positives and negatives to that. On one hand, you'd want to... if you create an entirely new character, you don't have any sort of expectations from fans going into it. But on the other hand, you really have to work an uphill battle to get people to care about it.
Yeah, especially since Kojima left the studio. Yeah.
Mm. So here, of course, they're talking about Metal Gear Solid Rising because that's what naturally led from the potentially canceled boss pitch. I'm a huge fan of Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, which is what this game obviously led to. But oh man, I forgot how ridiculous Metal Gear Solid 4 can be.
Yeah.
I'm really satisfied with the way that Metal Gear Rising came out, but I still would have been super curious to see what this game looked like. I suspect that if there ever was a kind of a beta version of this game that was available for people to test, it's probably been since long deleted or lost to Konami's archives, but I'd love for them to one day resurface that and get a chance to play it because it looks very interesting.
Like physics-wise, I think it looks more more comprehensive than the final product. I think it looks way more detailed graphically as well. So yeah, it runs on a different engine as well, right? Like the Fox engine was used for the original pitch or the original Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, and I think Platinum Games used their own proprietary engine for the final product.
I have to go and check that. Unfortunately, I wrote down like a lot of notes ahead of this video of things I wanted to tackle in the video, but I didn't do that one. I believe you might be correct, though. Okay. If you know the answer, feel free to sound off in the comments. In any case, so I am really happy that Platinum picked this game up. They've had a bit of a interesting history. I feel like a lot of like ups and downs throughout their life, and while obviously not every Metal Gear Solid fan resonated with this game, I do think that overall it was largely kind of a net positive for their reputation.
Sure. Yeah, I think it very much contributed to like the overall reputation that Platinum Games has right now, and sort of also the reason why games like Nier Automata really became popular.
Yeah. And speaking of which, man, I really am up for some more Nier, but that's a subject for another video.
Yeah, sure.
Man, look at them fight. Look at them jump on those rockets.
Is this like a how do you call it? Like a button mash sequence, or is this all like a cutscene? How does this work? I saw some button prompts right there, but I was more referring to the missiles.
That stuff's a little bit more button mashy, but like, so for example, in a sequence like this one, this looks like it's very button prompty, like quick time eventy, but you do actually have control about where it is that you're swinging the sword and how you want to cut up the truck. Okay. And it's like, so long as you cut the sword in the direction of the truck, you get to cut it in two and you get to avoid it, but there is at least some creativity in how you want to avoid damage, for example.
Sure. Cool.
Yeah. Gotta say, I really do love him performing the Zendatsu over there.
Yeah, it looks really cool. Yeah.
Well, it seems like we're unfortunately getting towards the end of the video here. The Fury. As we talked about here, these are only some of the canceled Metal Gear Solid games, ideas, and concepts that have happened over the years. There's, like with any video game franchises, undoubtedly a lot more than we could ever know about. And, who knows if we're ever going to get to view any of them, considering what a kind of black box Konami is. Metal Gear Survive. Yeah. I completely forgot about that one.
Well, if the Metal Gear franchise does end here, it would be unfortunate for people to remember Metal Gear by its last title, I think.
Yeah, when I went and I looked over this video yesterday, I went and looked in the comments section to see if there was any kind of gems to pull from. There's this one guy, Mufamdees, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, who said, "Shame Metal Gear Survive is not among the number of canceled games." That gave me a good laugh.
Yeah, I can understand it. I remember this, by the way, being like a big thing in the Metal Gear community, like the, what's it called, the big ladder sequence.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was fitting to use it as our ending.
Yeah. I feel like it's a little bit unfortunate that the credits go by pretty quickly. Like, I feel like if you had like a really, really, really long amount of credits, I feel like it would have been more effective. Of like, you just keep climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing. But I felt that it was the right choice to go with that. Otherwise,
cool. Yeah, no, our credits have lengthened in time since then.
That is true. All right. Well, thank you for watching this commentary video. I really enjoyed watching this. I hope you did as well, Eilert.
Yeah, absolutely. Even though I'm not really knowledgeable about Metal Gear, I thought this was pretty cool to do.
Yeah. We're planning on making more of these commentaries videos in the future. We figured, though, that we would start from here because this is the first video that I contributed to in the channel. And going forward, we're probably going to tackle more and more of the videos that I contributed to fully as well. If you want to follow us, you can, outside of the GVMERS YouTube channel stuff, you can follow me on Twitter at Alex Kozina, and also you can tune into Twitch at Cozy Bear Live, KOZIBEARLIVE, to watch me play some video games. And Eilert, people can follow you at
the Eilert. I'm not even gonna try spelling that. I hope Alexander can edit in like a little disclaimer or footnote.
We can probably also put these at the bottom of the video as usual.
Yeah, for sure. And otherwise, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yeah, and also if you want to, speak with us more in person, I mean, you can do those theoretically on the other channels that we just mentioned, but you can also join our GVMERS Discord as well, which I'd imagine you can find a link for in the comments below too.
Cool.
All right. And finally, last but not least, if you want to support us financially, if you really love this content and you want to see us continue to glow and flourish and not be impeded by the occasionally tumultuous world economy, you can support us at patreon.com/gamers, which I'd imagine that you probably see the word gamers on screen right now and know how we spell it. But in case you don't, it is GVMERS.
Exactly.
Correct?
Yes.
Yep. Pronounced gamers, by the way, not GVMERS or GVMERS. But you know what? Actually, we'll leave it up to you to pronounce it how you want to pronounce it.
Yeah, exactly. We use those pronunciations as well.
All right. Well, thank you once again for watching. We can't do these things without you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.